Hi, welcome to Bad Music Taste and Other Ways to Ruin Your Life. My name is Dominic.
And my name is Sam.
Sam has this week's record.
This week's record is Purple Rain by Prince. It was originally released on June 25th, 1984 by Warner Brothers Records. I was first introduced to Prince by my mother, since one song in particular off this record, When Doves Cry, seemed to always be playing. Since then, I've developed quite the love for Prince's music. The copy I have here is a repress on black vinyl. Anyways, today our guest is Chris Shary, who is an artist for the bands The Descendents and All. How are you today, Chris?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to know how you first met the Descendents.
Well, they were before they were back together again as Descendents. They were another band, All, as you guys mentioned, and All were on tour in Colorado, and I was a big fan of the band, and I had done some artwork for them that they used as a flyer for the show. And so after I guess when the show was going on, they got word of, okay, that's the guy that did the drawing, and so they came up and introduced themselves, and I said, hey, you're my favorite band, I love you guys, I'd like to do some artwork for you. They were like, okay, cool. So I did some stuff for them, and they wound up using it for t-shirts. And then as time went on, All decided, well, they were going to take a hiatus, and they got Milo, the singer for Descendents, back. They did a record as Descendents. And then Bill just started saying, well, how do you feel about doing artwork for Descendents now? And I said, okay, that would be fine. So, and I've been working with those guys for, I guess, about 30 years now. I'm imagining that you guys are just big music fans, just the same way that I am. And and that's what got me going, is that I was a music fan who did drawings, and you guys are music fans who are clearly interested in doing podcasts. And so you just figure out, okay, well, if I like this sort of stuff, how can I be useful, and how can I do something that's, meaningful if I'm not, in a band? So just like what you guys are doing, I did, and then just reached out to them, just the same way that you guys reached out to me. And I mean, it paid off. We've become really, really great friends, over the years.
Yeah.
And, I mainly am doing all of what I do because I'm a huge music fan, like I said, just like you guys clearly are. I think it's important that you figure out, well, what can you do? I tried singing in bands before, and, I'm not a good singer, but I don't mind making a fool of myself. So I did okay. But I realized that's really not what I want to do. So I knew that I was good at drawing, and I thought, okay, if I can draw well, I might as well do that. So that's kind of what got me there. And like with you guys doing a podcast, I mean, that's great. You've got to get started. You got to do something. Do you guys play music yourselves?
I play a couple different instruments. Just today I got a new drum set, so that's
wow.
pretty cool. Yeah.
How do your parents feel about that?
I mean, my dad plays the drums too, and he's really I've been playing the drums, I guess, since I was born, because my dad was a big drummer, and then I picked up the guitar when I was like 9 or 10, and from the ability of being able to play very good mediocre guitar, I picked up the bass.
Oh wow.
And so
have you been recording stuff on your own then with all the instruments?
I've done it a few times, and then sometimes I'm not great at writing lyrics or even really singing, so it'll just be like me noodling around on guitar and bass, and then I'll put some drums behind it. But yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah, so Dominic's kind of like he's kind of like the jack of all trades. He can play a bunch of instruments, and then my grandmother got me into playing the violin when I was like, I don't know, that was like 3 years ago now. So I take like lessons and everything, and I play it pretty seriously. Wow, but I would like to learn more.
So are you in like the school band or orchestra, or do they call that orchestra instead? That is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So we have, just our grade, like our 7th grade orchestra, but I'm also in our honors orchestra program at school.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, we go to like competitions.
And does the honors one sometimes work with the high school students too?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's usually what they do. That's cool. Well, good. I mean, I think it's really important, like, that when you get started with something that you enjoy, just keep at it. I mean, I'm a high school teacher too. And, a lot of my students get started, and they're like really excited about, whether it's music or singing or acting or drawing. And, then they get older and they just kind of like let that go. But I think it's important to figure out ways to just keep doing it, but start early. And if it's stuff that you really love, keep at it. Make it a part of like what you do.
Yeah.
I don't need to tell you guys how to live your lives. I mean, you probably know already.
What would you and say inspired your love for art? Like, was it a skill right away, or was it found later on, like you said?
It was kind of my mom. You guys both mentioned that your parents or your grandparents have gotten you interested in things.
Yeah.
My mom was my biggest inspiration because when I was really little, my dad was in the Air Force and we were living in Germany, and my mom didn't speak German, and my brother had just started kindergarten. He was 2 years older than me. And when he was in kindergarten, I'm at home with my mom, and she didn't know many people around, and so just the two of us would kind of hang out and play. So she'd clean up the house, and then when that was done, we'd draw. So we'd get out coloring books and paper, and we just draw. And so she was good at art. She loved it in high school, and so she would draw, and I just kept drawing and drawing and drawing. And like I said, it was something I enjoyed. So I did it all the time. And, then as time goes by, like with anything, you realize, oh, I'm getting pretty good at this. And then the next thing you're being asked to do things for other people. And, sometimes there's a career out of that. And that's kind of what happened with me. Yeah. So my mom has always been my biggest artistic inspiration.
Yeah.
That's cool. So just a little bit ago, you said that you were a school teacher, but considering that, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on schools reopening in the fall.
Yeah. So we had done, and I'm guessing you guys did. Where are you guys living at?
Oh, we're both in Baltimore.
Okay, Baltimore. Okay. So in California on, I think it was March 13th, we had shut down probably about the same time that you guys did.
Yeah.
And we went on distance learning. But the problem is that with the distance learning that we were doing it with hold harmless was kind of like the overriding thing, which means during the third quarter, kids' grades wouldn't go down, they could only go up. So if we were doing things, if I had assignments that I was giving, those assignments could help and could increase people's grades or keep their grades steady, but they could increase, they couldn't go down. So the problem is that when we were doing that, if you had an assignment and you just didn't want to do it, you didn't do it, your grade wouldn't go down.
Exactly.
So kids are smart. And a lot of them went, if I don't have to do this, I'm not going to. And so a lot of
smart in the sense of it's like, I'm going to do the bare minimum.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like, why not? I mean, if you're super excited about the subject and, maybe you want to do that, or maybe you're just worried about like what's going on in the world and you can't focus, or you have bad internet at home, or you can't get on a Zoom meeting. So, there could be all kinds of reasons. So the distance learning that we did at the end of the year, it wasn't great. And it really wasn't great because kids' grades weren't really affected by it, apart from positively being affected. The idea of starting off school now with, numbers increasing and everything, like there's no way that I want my students back physically in school. I mean, I know I'm in contact with a lot of my students and I know that they really miss physically seeing each other. I know they do. And I do too. I mean, I really miss seeing them. But I don't want to do that at anybody's risk, or at like parents or grandparents, because they might be fine, but they might go home and pass it on to somebody. And, so I really do not want to be there physically in school at the start, as much as I want to see my students and as much as I want to physically be able to do stuff. I think it's much wiser to start, doing distance stuff, but figuring a better way to do it. Because like I said, the end of our year, it wasn't ideal. So I think we can do it better. And I know that, all the teachers that I'm working with are really excited about getting better at what they do. I mean, they kind of always are. So how do you guys feel about it? I mean, are you going to be going and having to be there, or have they made decisions?
I think they're debating right now, but there's no set decision. Like, we also left on March 13th actually. And the only contact we've had with the school is like picking up yearbooks like last month, So personally, because my dad is actually older and, my grandmother too, like I don't want to put anybody in my family at risk as much, like you said, as much as I want to be in the building. But because the thing is, we can go back in September and it's like, it's fine, but then we start going into flu season, and that brings even more risk because it's too, it's like fighting fire with fire against everybody. So I would say we wait to see the numbers drop more drastically and wait until flu season's over.
Yeah, if that's doable for other places, it would be great.
Yeah.
And I know yesterday, Los Angeles School District and San Diego had both made decisions that they were not going to be opening for the entire year. So they were going to do all things online. And I think that's going to set a really good precedent for, certainly California. Governor Newsom in California has, said it's really dependent upon your school district. But with two of these very large ones in the state saying we're not opening, there's going to be a lot of people that will say, okay, well, we won't do it. They already agreed to that. So I think it's going to be easier for them. So, we'll see. I'm nervous. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to pass it on to anybody else. And as a teacher, I've had students that have died for a variety of reasons. And I can tell you that there is nothing, as a teacher, there is nothing worse than having one of your students die. And I cannot, in good conscience say, no, let's do this knowing what the risks might be. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have to debate whether or not schools are opening over a Zoom call, then there's your answer.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. If we're not getting together to talk about it, then why on earth do we want to? And you guys know, I mean, I'm sure in school, you see plenty of kids that I don't trust where their hands have been.
Yeah.
They're not covering their mouth, and if you then say, okay, well, you've got to have masks on when you're in classes, that becomes something that you're just policing all day.
It's a distraction at that point.
Yeah. And so what do you want to do? Do you want to spend all of your time just dealing with that, or do you want to get into education? Well, if it's education and you really want to be passing on information, doing it distantly, it might not be ideal, but it seems like it's the better solution.
Yeah. Because at that point you might learn more too. Because like you said, it would be the distraction at school. So most of the time would be occupied by all of the social distancing conditions.
Well, you guys know how it is. I mean, there's always idiots in your classes that slow things down for everyone, so you might get somebody who is intentionally disruptive, whether it's because they're asking stupid questions, and there are stupid questions, of course there are. But when you get a lot of kids that, I kind of are like that, and you know who they are. They're in all of your classes. There's somebody who slows things down. Well, the trouble is that in education, you then sometimes have to pace yourself according to, kind of who's going to slow things down the most. And so you don't move forward as much. And I found that at the very least with doing the stuff online, there wasn't as much of that. Kids could definitely contact me personally and let me know about things, or they could stay after we had a class meeting, like on Meet, and then I could talk to them one-on-one, but it didn't slow everything down for everybody else. So I think some more shy or kids that really, don't want asking things that they did, and I think that, so I think the distance stuff works better for certain types of learners. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. So I noticed quite a few of your pieces that are up on your website are inspired by horror icons like Beetlejuice and Michael Myers. Would these happen to be inspired by a love for horror?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love horror films and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's always been something that as a kid I got really super excited about, and that hasn't changed as I've gotten older. And I don't know about you guys, but Halloween's my favorite time of year. So as we're kind of gearing up for that, I get super excited. And around our house, you can probably see right back here. This is not on my laptop. It's on a desktop. Well, maybe you can see. No, you can't see. I got a thing in the way. Anyway, it's a Godzilla piece that my wife had done. And then right behind me, there's a piece, there's a photograph over there. It's Amy Poehler from Parks and Rec in like the shower scene from Psycho.
Psycho. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are just a couple things that are up. And then I have all these Sharpie drawings of horror legends. And yeah, it's my absolute favorite genre of film. I mean, I don't even care if it's a bad horror movie. We've been going through and watching some of the really, really bad Nightmare on Elm Streets. And there's some terrible ones. But we've been watching that. So yes, I love horror stuff.
I've been rewatching all of them because the way I got into horror was I actually used to hate horror movies. You know, I was really young when I first watched them. I was like 7, and I watched this one. Have you seen like Annabelle, the whole Conjuring series? So my mom decided, I watched it when I was like 7, and the movie didn't even freak me out that bad. But I wake up the next morning, and my mom literally woke up early to set up this whole thing. Like in the beginning where she has the crayon and she drew all over everything. My mom drew all over everything with a crayon and left it there with a note, and I was so freaked out.
And thus you started a love for horror.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, it's fine.
Dominic, how about you? Do you like horror stuff too?
I'm not a huge fan, no.
That's okay. You know, that's the other thing is like, you know, I love that there are certain things that people just aren't into, and it's just like, that's fine. Like my opinion, I'm not trying to put on anybody else and go, you should really like it. Who cares? Like, you like what you like.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like comedy movies and whatnot like that.
Yeah, me too. What's your favorite comedy film?
Well, my favorite movie ever is Dazed and Confused.
Oh yeah, wow, that's a great one. Yeah, actually, Bill from the Descendents, drummer for the Descendants, he was the first person that showed me that film, and oh man, I just loved it.
And then I like documentaries as well, and Filmage is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
mine too.
Yeah, I've got the Filmage poster. Yeah,
that was
backwards on Zoom.
Yeah, it's definitely my second favorite music documentary of all time. I thought it was just incredible. I mean, the guys who did the film did such a great job of the storytelling and having the animation in there, and the people they got for the interviews and everything, just the storytelling. And that's the thing probably you've realized too, is that with documentaries, a lot of times it's about telling a good story. It's not just about the band, but what is it about? And, you know, so are you trying to tell like a bigger story or whatnot? And, you know, I think with Filmage, they did a great job of showing how you need to be thankful for the things that you have when you have them, because it changes, you know, and Descendants, when they were playing, you know, in the 80s, they were popular, but not anything at all like they are now. And so, you know, when they had broken up and they became they got more popular in some ways, and then it got to a point where it was just like, oh, okay, and then they got back as Descendants, and it was even bigger, and now, of course, you know, it's just huge.
Yeah.
But nobody could have ever predicted that. So it's like you be thankful for what you've got when you've got it, and it might get better, but, you know, just enjoy it when you can. And I think the film did a really, really good job of kind of telling that as part of the story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yes. So I recently watched your TED Talk, and you said that you're a trained art teacher, but decided to teach drama instead. So why is this?
Well, I mean, it's not so much that I decided to teach drama, but like I kind of fell into it. So what happened was I was at a school where there were 2 drama teachers, and one was going on maternity leave. She was having a baby, and she was going to leave for a year. So I thought, okay, well, no, that's not so bad. And the school asked me, would you be interested in doing this for a year? And I thought, well, I can do anything for a year. So I agreed to doing it. And my wife actually has a degree in acting. So she's an actress.
Wow.
And so she said, yeah, I can help you out. It'll be easy. Trust me, you know, you'll probably really enjoy it. So I started doing it for a year, and the other teacher just never came back. You know, she had taken her year off and then decided, all right, well, I'm going to stay at home for a while, and then wound up teaching somewhere else. So I kind of fell into it. And then the next thing I knew, you know, it's 17 years later and I'm still teaching it. So, I mean, it's not really like, I didn't really choose it. It kind of happened. And then I don't think they could get anybody that would want to do it. I mean, it's a difficult job. So, you know, I wound up just doing something and realizing I love something that I didn't know that I would, you know, because like in school, drama was not my thing.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I didn't like, the sort of kid in my school that did it. And I didn't really have anything to do with it. So when they asked me, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can stand being around those kids. And the truth is that my students, I love. I think they're great. It's definitely something I really have grown to love. But I'm picking up an art class again this year for the first time in, I don't know, like 15 years. So it's weird. It's weird to be like, really like trained and do something, and then you do something completely different.
Yeah. So, all about art. I've always believed you've had a very unique art style, but how did you develop it?
I guess just kind of did by trial and error. Like anybody else, like
Yeah.
you get good, or you develop a sense of style by just doing what you do over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I haven't been skating a lot lately, but I grew up as a skater. So as a skater, there are certain skaters that have an undeniable style. Like you watch them and the way that they do certain tricks, or just like the way that they push or whatever, there is a style to them. And that comes from just time, and so I think for me, it's the same thing. It's like what I developed just over time, and definitely having like other artists that kind of influenced me that I really liked. I love cartoons, and I still do. I watch a lot of cartoons, and I always did. So I always had like kind of a cartoony sense to what I did, and I love comic books. So Marvel comics I always read, and I just kind of like started imitating what I saw. And I think that's where the style came from, was just kind of like me trying to figure out how to draw and figuring out what I want to do. Well, anyway, good luck with school starting back up again. However that looks, I hope that goes good for you guys.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
And how long have you guys been doing the podcast for? This has been it's a relatively new thing, right?
It's like 4 months.
I know. I think it's only been like 2, actually.
Yeah, because we used to, since we started interviewing more people, we've done it like more consistently. Because we started out with like interviewing friends, because it's better to ease into it that way, because it's kind of scary talking to new people.
Yeah. Okay. I think, if I remember correctly, that first episode was uploaded April 25th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it hasn't been too long, but yeah.
Well, relatively speaking, that's a long while. I mean, that's kind of like a quarter of a year, really. I mean, when you look at it like that, you go, oh, wow, that is kind of a while. Well, that's cool. I really appreciate you guys asking me to do this, and wish you the best with all the other stuff that you're up to.
Thank you.
You as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Okay. Thanks, guys.